Hello, folks. Good evening. You're welcome to another edition of Just Banter. My name is Habib Eniola. Unfortunately, we didn't have a show a few days ago. Well, sometimes that happens. Life, throws some little berries or some little curves, at you, and then you have to adjust yourself and keep moving. I hope you enjoyed the replay of the show that we had last week. Today, we have a very interesting guest on the show. What we're going to be talking about is what's going on in the world today, the relevance of university degrees, how does it affect people, how do people keep struggling to go to universities, and at the end of the day, you find out that there are no jobs. Why are there no jobs? Now, in a lot of developing countries, especially when you look at China, or rather a lot of developed countries, beg your pardon, you look at China, you look at the United Kingdom, you look at the US, there's a lot of production that goes on there. I was in Turkey recently, and I saw the amount of production that was going on in Turkey. And I noticed what the educational system was also like. And that's why we were here to discuss that today. Because when you look at Africa, one thing has been missing, and that is the ability to actually produce. Why are we not producing? Even when it comes to services, we're not even relevant in the services sector. We're supposed to be exporting services at this rate. But for some strange reason, that's not happening. Today, I'm going to be talking to Samuel Akinlotan. Samuel is a talent management professional, and he's in a very, very, very great position to tell us a couple of things about the relevance of university degrees, especially in relation to when it comes to vocational certifications and things like that. Welcome into the studio, Samuel Akinlotan. Hello, Samuel.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, thank you very much for having me. I'm pretty excited. I'm pumped to be here and to share a few thoughts. Trust me, I think I'll be learning. I'll be learning, not just to only share as well. So yes, thank you very much for having me join you today.
That's fantastic, Samuel. Samuel, you're a talent management professional. A lot of people, hear some types of titles in Nigeria. They don't really know exactly what it means, So what's a talent management?
Okay, so talent management is at the core of human resources. Human resource management in an organization, and what the nature of what I do is every organization has a need. Every organization has some strategy that they're trying to bring to life, some objective that they're trying to bring to life, and what will drive this strategy, what will drive this objective are people. Again, for every activity in an organization, is people are at the core of it. So the idea, behind talent management for me is bringing in those people into an organization, hiring them, as we call it averagely, hiring them into the organization. It even start from attracting them. Who are the kind of people that can do the kind of things we want to do in an organization? The strategy we've defined for ourselves as an organization, in the next 5 years, 10 years, who are the kind of people that can do it? How do we attract this set of people? How do we hire them, to bring them into our organization? How do we develop them such that if they do not have the skills or knowledge required to perform, what they need to perform in our organization or their relevant task as they align with our strategy, how do we help them develop? So that is, attracting them, hiring them, training them or developing them. And, it also fits into performance management to say, these people, as they are doing what you're supposed to do in our organization, can we also, measure their work? That's what we call performance management, their activities, to ensure it is in tandem with the strategy we've defined from the beginning. So that's performance management. And it now speaks to how can we ensure we can also keep them in our organization such that they are not just there, competitors can come to want to poach them because they see that they are doing very well with us. So how do we also keep them, not just keep them, ensure they are motivated to do what we require them to do, that they are adding value, every time they come to work. So that is it. So it's from attracting them, hiring them, developing them, measuring their performance, and also retaining them in the organization. So that's like the core element that build up talent management. And this is what I do, as a professional.
Okay, because for me, to be honest with you, I'm just hearing that for the first time. I've heard of human resources management and stuff like that. Talent management. Anytime I hear talent management, the first thing that crosses my mind is the entertainment industry, to be honest with you. Now, university degrees. In a country like Nigeria, where you are managing talent, I have observed over the time that you have an average of 1 million graduates coming out of universities in Nigeria.
Yes.
Still, when they do get hired by the big companies, especially, even the medium-sized ones, they still have to be trained to fit into those organizations. Yes, I agree. Not every organization's process is the same as the next one. But you see that they get trained for even the most basic of things. If that is the situation, why then, is there so much relevant, so much of people happy on you having a university degree? I don't get it.
So I think I would go from the challenges, with the why we have this gap, with this capability gap in regards to education and the workplace in Nigeria. And I could be more experiential about this. This is like I would say an informal conversation, so it's nothing that you should be too serious. And I could say also I studied biochemistry, for example, in university. And when I studied biochemistry in the university, the textbook I used to study biochemistry that we used to we were taught with back then in uni. The textbook was written in 1978. Yeah, 1978, and this was early 2000s. I'm talking early this was around 2010 that I was in uni that I'm mentioning here. So a textbook that was written in 1978. How does it apply to the current workplace demands of a biochemist? And that's where the gap starts from. So, for example, all of us, we saw how Corona, eats the world, right now, today, as we have it. So the question I'm asking is, so we probably have biochemists that are supposed to be at the core of, finding solutions, studying, the coronavirus to understand, the core components of how it reacts, the antibodies that could fight it in our body, and probable vaccines that could help us curb the menace called coronavirus. So imagine graduating from a system that the textbook you studied with was written in 1978. How do you match that knowledge with current world realities like coronavirus? Again, there's a huge gap. And that speaks to different spheres, different professions. You have an accounting graduate coming out of university, and all the balance sheet they still do. They can't even do it. They don't do it on Excel, and Excel is like the most basic thing when it comes to accounting. They do not even do it on Excel in school. They probably do it on a sheet of paper. You get someone draws it on the board for them, and they have to write it out on a sheet of paper. So they do not even know the functions required to perform. Yes, they do not know the functions required to perform basic computing, basic computation, figure analysis on Excel sheets. We have graduates of computer science that cannot use Microsoft Office. You get so it is showing the gap with regards to what is being taught, the curriculum available in our university systems, and what the workplace demands. So it is that gap that is even very, very evident with regards to Nigeria and unemployability there. And for me, when it now comes to relevance of it,
go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. Go ahead.
Okay, great. So okay, great. So when we now relate this to the relevance of a university degree in today's world, if I use the Nigerian context, averagely, I would say, the Nigerian system is still hierarchical. It is a cultural environment as well that is built. I would say the corporate space is built around degrees. It's built around degrees. So it's even important for us to know what is required to even get into the workplace. We now see job employments that are even requesting for a bachelor's degree, a higher national diploma for the most basic things that a non-graduate can do. And that's because we realize that we have a peculiar labor market, that we have high unemployability. The unemployment rate is high, unemployability is high as well. So to reduce the number of candidates organizations engage, they have to now put higher measures, like a degree, for example. But when we look at markets like the US, for example, that have a relatively, compared to Nigeria, a relatively low unemployment rate over there. That's where we have companies like Apple, Google, Netflix coming up to say, you can work with us without having a degree. And that's the interesting thing, is because of the low unemployment rate that they are experiencing over there. We can't bring such to Nigeria because the unemployment rate is high. There are like a large number of people out there. So there's a need for us to add further requirements to be able to engage candidates in the talent market, basically. So that's why I think using it from a Nigerian context, a degree is still very important to get into the workplace as much as possible.
Yeah, but what I still find curious is this: you just mentioned Google, Apple, and all of those, Netflix. And there seems to be a major challenge that they are also having. Okay, I think we have lost Samuel there very briefly. But anyway, Samuel was talking about high unemployability rates in Nigeria. I saw a post today that a friend made on Facebook, and in as much as it could seem hilarious, it was the truth. He said, sorry, we lost you there, Samuel. Can you hear me?
Okay, I don't know. I think the thing threw me out. I'm here. I can hear you.
Technical glitch, so that happens sometimes. So I was just telling the guests, the viewers, that you were mentioning Google and all of that. And ironically, today, I actually saw a post that a friend made. And the post was about the high unemployability rates in Nigeria and how peculiarly it was for the well-educated, quotes and unquote. Now, Nigeria is a country that produces next to nothing. Even with the university degrees, we still don't have competent people to export services. The way you have Indians exporting services, Ukrainians exporting services, Americans exporting services, the British exporting services, you don't have that here. The relevance of a university degree is becoming more and more questionable because a lot of those jobs, especially when it comes to the services, you don't need a university degree for. It's amazing that you don't. I'll give you an example. When you look at the IT industry, for instance, in the IT industry, you have several jobs in the IT industry that you do not need a university degree for. Talk about a support specialist, a computer programmer, a quality assurance tester, a web developer, IT technician, systems analyst, network engineer, user experience designer. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. Now, what I now saw that really piqued my interest about it all is the fact that the student loans are a killer.
Yes, I agree.
Oh yeah, the student loans are out and out a killer. When you look at the UK, for instance, let's talk about those student loans and how they are affecting them. When you talk about student loans, the outstanding student loan debt in the United States is $1 trillion US. And in Great Britain, it's $135 billion. We got those statistics from Statista. That is probably the most authoritative form of information you can get. Now, when you know these things, you now start to ask yourself questions. You now say, okay, this university degree, do I truly need it? If I need it, what do I need it for? Yes, there are some jobs that you can't do without having a university degree. You can't be a lawyer and things like that. But how relevant is it, especially when you're hired and they still have to train you again to do those jobs? And those jobs are not even there. It's not relevant, in my opinion. I don't know what a lot of other people think, but human capital or human resource should be the primary thing that every nation should focus on. So when you look at your job as a talent management professional, shouldn't you start looking at those types of professions where all you need is a certification, or it's what do they call these people? Artisans, as they say in Nigeria. So plumbers, technicians, you don't have them. Why are you people not focusing on getting those type of talents and being much more productive in the Nigerian market?
So I mentioned something I mentioned something earlier, and our labor market is pretty peculiar. We can't compare ourselves, to these larger, economies. And the reason we can't do that is because we have the Nigerian university system and higher institution, system in Nigeria produces over 800,000 graduates every year. We currently have
1 million.
about yes, and we have over 65% unemployment rate, youth unemployment rate right now, which takes us into the millions, which is over 40 million, as you will have it. So if we put these numbers recurring every year, so averagely, organizations will see it this way. If I bring two candidates together, and one has a degree and one does not have a degree, and they have equal set of skills, an organization would prefer to pick the one that has a degree because there are certain things they might have learned during their course of study to get a degree. That is where the advantage now comes in. That's where the advantage of a degree now comes in. So if we check it very well, those roles that do not require a degree, they are often technical and skill based. They are often technical and skill based. If you check it very well, they are either very technical or around communication that does not require education. So, for example, a marketing professional, for example, can pass for not having a degree.
Yes.
That's an interesting thing there. So yeah, a person that is a marketing professional, a natural marketing professional, has a flair for engaging people, learn it in school. That's one of the things that make them different. There, a technical person that maybe an electrical or a mechanical engineer, you get a person that does not have to learn certain things in school. Maybe they just learn it from, in quotes, from a technical, a vocational school. Like the roadside mechanics, vocational school where they learn hands-on. Would definitely be better than the person that studied it in school. But if you look at it from an organizational context, even the person that is hands-on will most likely be reporting to a person that has a degree, because there are certain developed. Probably teamwork, for example, could be one of it. Working on projects while in university. Assignments, for example, would help them understand how to work with deadlines. And these are the things that set apart those that have a degree from those that do not. I'm not taking it away that skills are very, very important in the workplace that we have today. I'm not taking it away. Skills-based role will always trump, many other roles. But we need to realize that when we now come to having candidates that have a degree and have the skill, those that have the degree will always have the edge because of other skills they might have picked up along the line while trying to get that degree.
Okay, well, you see, I'm not discounting university degrees. I was fortunate enough to have been able to go to school different continents. We seem to have lost Samuel again. I don't know why there's a technical glitch, but sometimes that happens. But in a country, not in the country, on African continents, I'll speak of Africa. Let me not seem to be bashing Nigeria. On a continent where there's very, very low production levels, you have to start to ask yourselves, why do you have those low production levels? Samuel, sorry, we lost you there again. Something seems to be up with the connect. Yeah. So I was just saying, to the guests that when you look at, I'm going to step away from bashing Nigeria. So this is not a Nigerian bashing session. But when you look at Africa, you see that there's a very, very low production level in Africa. And for most Africans, they have the opportunity to see what is going on in other parts of the world. Well, not most Africans, a lot of Africans. They have the opportunity to see what's going on in the other parts of the world. They're getting to see that a lot of those jobs out there in the world right now, in those developed countries, are skills-based opportunities, as opposed to the certification-based opportunities, especially when it comes to university certifications. The reason why they're not towing that line still beats me. There are a lot of things that should scare people, especially when it comes to university education. You just said it a little while ago, that you use a textbook that was printed in 1978. That's absolutely amazing. You know why? Because I used those same type of textbooks way back in the university here in Nigeria. They cannot make you be up to speed with what's going on in the world today. So why do you not go for those certifications that will put you in a relevant position? When you look at figures, because I like to deal with figures intrigue me. I'm not a mathematician and I'm not very, very good at mathematics or BODMAS or whatever they used to call it back in those days. But I still look at figures a lot and I still try to see how those figures can come into relevance for me. I'll give the guests another example of what we're talking about. I will continue to use the student loans. Okay, we seem to have lost someone again there. I'll continue to use the student loans around the world for the purpose of this discussion. Now, the average student loan debt in the United States, individually, is $32,731 US dollars. In the United Kingdom, it's 40,280 Great British pounds.
Wow.
That's the average student loan debt. You now have to start asking yourself questions. Okay, so if a student is owing this much. Now, when I say this is average, I'm talking especially about Great Britain, when it comes to the United Kingdom. When we say this is average, trust me, it is the bare minimum that we could go that we thought was reasonable. Most people will tell you that those figures are more around the £50,000 mark.
Wow.
Most people will tell you that it's around the £50,000 mark. These are examples for Africans, because a lot of people over there say to themselves, why do I need to go to a university for 4 years, come out with a degree and a student debt, and I cannot get a job? Whereas, if you look at the plumber, for instance, in the United Kingdom, take a wild guess how much a plumber earns in the United Kingdom on an annual basis.
Well, maybe it's 20 to 30s.
20 to 30,000 pounds. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So this is how much an average plumber earns. And that's how much an average graduate entry level income earns.
Whoa, interesting.
So when we start to look at these figures, we need to now start looking inwards again and start saying, okay, fine. When you need somebody to fix your electricity in your house, before you actually find somebody that is skilled enough to be able to do that, it's a challenge. When you want to do furniture, you start to sweat buckets because you are wondering, am I going to spend so much money and then I don't have any guarantees on this furniture that I'm buying? So there's a huge, massive gap in the Nigerian economy. People need different types of services, but they can't get those kind of people, because when you look at Nigeria in particular, the electrician is no longer there because he's riding Okada. The carpenter is no longer there because he's riding Okada. How does that work? If talent professionals like yourself were looking towards those type of areas and saying, okay, you know what, how can we harness talents? How can we develop them and then make them more marketable? I believe that that's a huge business opportunity for talent professionals like yourself. I don't know what you think about
that. Considering what you've said around, so one thing I want us to also pay attention to is that if we check most of these areas that people thrive without a degree, they are often technical, which is what I mentioned earlier. They are often technical, but we realize that in the business world, in the corporate world, even in the world at large, there are different, even public sector, there are different skill sets required to excel, to be successful on different in different profession. Yeah, and we realize that most professions across the world, they have the element of, in quotes, business and management. Most professions, even the mechanical engineer, there are certain decisions they cannot make based on technical knowledge. They can't make business decision based on technical knowledge. So there are still the soft side of it that might still need some level of learning. You get, and I think the interesting thing now is that we have all these massive open online courses, the Udemy, the Coursera, the Allison, as you may have it, the EDX, that offers that opportunity for technical professionals to learn on the go without necessarily going to school. There, but one thing we should also pay attention to is that for people that want to start a career outrightly in business management, in administration, and other areas like even science, STEM, core STEM, you still need some level of education to start out or branch out into them. You can't so for example, if you want to be a researcher, there are some basic principles when it comes to learning that one has to have some level of exposure to. If I'm looking at sciences, for example, there are certain tools you need to have some level of exposure to, which you'd so I call it programmed learning. You get, in your year one, there are certain things you'll be exposed to learn. In your second year, there are things you also learn. So you learn progressively, programmed learning. Unlike if we are learning it technically, it might not be structured. So I think that is one advantage, a degree gives. I'm very much, of the school of thought that yes, you do not, all jobs do not need a degree for you to excel at them. But averagely, looking at all, across all professions, a degree is still very relevant. That's just my, school of thought around this. And if I'm still looking at the context of Africa, the reason I would say a degree is not aiding or enhancing our potential, helping us harness our potentials better, and two things basically for me is because of the curriculum itself and the way we were taught or raised, if that is the better use of word. Because
Yeah.
a good number of us growing up, where our first level of exposure, our parents, our school teachers, and the religious institution, whichever one we belong to. If it is the mosque, if it is the church, we realize that we listen to our imams, our pastors. They teach, we listen. We are not allowed to think and give them feedback, even when we do not agree with what they are saying.
Oh, I agree
Again,
with you.
these are like the way a lot of us are, yes, are brought up. At home, our parents talk to us. You get, we are not allowed, we're not raised to give feedback. We're not allowed, raised, I think it's this new generation of, kids that their parents are raising them to be able to dialogue. You get, we were raised to listen, to accept what is being taught, being communicated to us. Then same thing in our schools. The teacher teaches you, you listen. You do not ask questions that they cannot understand.
You
Again,
got you got
that's how a lot of us,
engage.
yes, you get. We were not taught to engage or dialogue, and that's how we were raised. So it influences or inhibits the ability of a lot of people to think, to critically think, to creatively think, and that is how it has also affected our ability to produce. If we check those people that are creating in the world we are today in Nigeria and Africa, we realize that they belong more to the newer generation. And if we check their background very well, they were those that they had an enabling environment that enabled them, that encouraged them to think, to produce, to create. If we check, the past generation of people that also created, that also have, conglomerate, that also have companies today. If you check the environment they grew up in, it is one that encouraged them to think. There are outliers, definitely, but if you check the numbers average, you realize that those that created from even the older generation are those that were in an enabling environment that allowed them to think, to create, or probably had an exposure that encouraged them to think there. So I think our background also has a very, very big part to play, and not just the education system per se, in regards to how much we can produce. So I think is a function of two things. Our education system is not, doing a whole lot with regards to preparing us for the workplace of today. And the second thing is our background, our cultural, our respect-oriented culture that's built around reference for authority, reference for people that are older than you. I think that's a major inhibitor as well in regards to our ability to produce in Africa.
Okay. So we're going to take a short break now. And when we come back, we're going to be asking you a question around exclusionary titles. Being a lawyer, being a doctor, being an engineer, why people think it is so important to have those titles, even though they know that the future is very, very limited when it comes to having those types of titles. We'll be right back shortly after this break.
Good.
Hi, folks. If you're just joining us, you're welcome to another edition of Just Banter. And we're having a conversation around relevance of a university degree in today's world. And we have a great guest on tonight. His name is Samuel Akinlotan. Samuel is a talent management professional, and he's schooling us a bit on why you need the university degree much more than the certifications, as the case might be. Great to have you back, Samuel.
Yeah, thank you very much again for having me.
Yeah, we've been talking about, the relevance of university degree in today's world, whether there are jobs out there to meet the demands are already out there. There's a big stretch. 1 million graduates from Nigeria alone every year. And then you now have an exclusive group who go after exclusive or should I call them exclusive titles or exclusionary titles? So they want to be lawyers, they want to be doctors, they want to
Okay,
be
I'm
engineers.
I'm experiencing some network distortions, so I can't see. I didn't get your sentence very clearly.
Okay, I said we have a group amongst the 1 million graduates at universities in Nigeria or higher institutions in Nigeria every year. Should we call them the exclusive titles or the exclusionary titles, whereby they want to be doctors, they want to be lawyers, they want to be engineers, they want to be architects? You see them carry it so much that even on their business cards now, or their calling cards, you see somebody writing is a pharmacist, Samuel Akinlotan, or architect. And I've never seen that anywhere else in the world but in Nigeria. Now, the truth about that, in my opinion, is this. If you have exclusionary titles, then that means that there's a certain level of depth that is lacking. Because if the depth was not lacking, why would you go after such exclusionary titles when there's a big, massive world out there that you can earn from?
Okay, well, I think it's a cultural thing because I know I have friends across the world, fortunately for me, and I've seen how people don't aggrandize some titles. You have friends that are doctors outside the country, and you rarely see them even address themselves as a doctor outside their profession. If they are with friends, if they are with families, if they are in social gatherings, they'll just tell you their name and they'll tell you they're a medical doctor. They will not say, "Oh, I am Dr. Samuel." And I think it is because of our environment that is particular about your social status. I think that's one of the key things that has encouraged this kind of packaging, in quotes, if that's the word to use, around here. I think because our society is one that aligns your social status with the kind of engagement you can get. We find people in social gatherings, when they say, "Oh, I work with this organization," everybody wants to talk to them. And some, when they say, "Oh, I work with this organization," and nobody knows where they work. People just are a bit aback when engaging them. So I think it's just our society that has been used to aggrandizing a person's social status with regards to how you engage them. There are people that when you meet them, they won't tell you their names. I was at a conference sometime in 2018, if I remember very clearly. I met this white professor from Harvard, funny enough. And this guy he came he just came to participate. So I think he was lodging at an hotel close to the place. And he saw the advert for the program and he signed up and he said he was just going to come and sit in to learn. And I just saw him at the coffee table and I just helloed him. And we just got into a chat. And when I realized he was a professor from Harvard, I was in my mind, I was blown away sincerely, like, oh my God, all these people that are, writing all the business stuff of the world, that all of us are reading as case studies, that is defining how business is done across the world. And when I went online, as I left him to check his work, I realized that this is one of the top persons when it comes to strategy at Harvard.
Okay.
And it's pretty interesting because he just sat in as a simple person. But I can assure you that if it was such person from some university in Nigeria here, I can assure you the person wants to probably sit on the first row at the event. The person wants them to recognize him or her. The person wants to ask some question that will show that, oh, good afternoon, I am professor this from this university. When he introduced himself, I was the one that asked him that, okay, so what do you do? Before he told me that he was a professor from Harvard, I was like, Harvard Business School, a professor from Harvard, and you are introducing yourself like this. You cannot do some loud ovation.
Exactly.
And it just shows how our cultural perspective and understanding of self influences how we communicate, how we express ourselves. That's why you see a lot of people when they're having arguments in traffic, average in Nigeria, you say, "Do you know me? Do you know who I am?" At the top of their voices, because it is we've aligned our sense of self to our social status. So I think that is why a lot of these things happen in the social space in Nigeria here, because our culture encourages identifying self-identity to social status. I think that's it.
So a lot of these people go to universities let's
Yeah.
let's not bash the exclusionary titles. A lot of these people go to university and then they come out. I have a cousin who studied biochemistry, no, microbiology initially. She was influenced into going to read microbiology because her mother happened to have something to do with Lagos State Waterworks. And every time she went there with her mother, she got really intrigued. And she decided that what she wanted to do was to become a microbiologist. She wanted to change the world when it came to drinking water and things like that. And then she studied microbiology. And by the time she graduated, with all the ASU strikes and stuff, maybe 7 years had passed. Her interest had waned a bit. But still, as a microbiologist, she should have been able to get a job like that. There are food businesses, there are water production businesses, there are beverage production businesses all over, supposedly. But she wasn't able to get a job at any of them. Today, as we speak, she has done probably maybe about 11 certifications. And presently, as I speak, none of those certifications was within the four walls of a university. But when you talk of IT security, she's probably somewhere on top there. She can export her service to anywhere in the world that her service is needed. Probably she doesn't even need to leave her home to be able to provide that service. Now, when you now look at the environment that we live in, especially in Africa, where we keep talking about production levels being low, there's so much opportunity, especially for people who decide to go after those certifications. You spoke about MOOC a few minutes ago. Those massive online open courses. I've done 2 or 3 myself. I like doing courses. I can't tell you on air how many courses I've done because it seems ridiculous, but I've done a fair bit. Now, I can fit into a lot of roles without a university degree. A lot. Yes, I might be a bit more rounded because I can fit into a bit more roles, probably because I did go to the university. But I do know a lot of people that will not hire me because there's somebody that has just a certification, no university degree, and he has got 5 to 6 years experience in that sector. In Nigeria, they still keep telling you university degree. On the average, they say entry level, they want master's degree. How productive are these people in the scheme of things? How productive?
So, to share a thought on degrees, has been relevant. For me, I would say there are certain things. I think a degree is not just about what you studied in class. It's not just about the knowledge you acquired while studying. It also has to do with the life skills that one develops, during the course of obtaining that degree. I think that's what even makes the difference, in the workplace and even in life generally. There are certain life skills that one develops that one might not be able to acquire from, taking online courses, that one might not be able to get, from learning technical work. And that's just the difference.
Yeah.
So I'm an HR professional now, and I studied biochemistry. So it is not what I studied in university that is making me excel at human resources. But I can attribute certain skills that I developed while studying biochemistry to what has made me successful at human resources. For example, I learned reading and writing. Probably I mastered it to a very good level, while studying.
Yes.
Yes. So, for example, communication could be part of the skill that one could obtain from obtaining a degree. So, the life skills generally, even the network from obtaining a degree, it's larger, averagely larger than going through a technical systems or taking online courses, as you would have it. From the network you build from your hostel. I know certain senior executives in organizations today. I know an organization in Nigeria today, in an investment bank in Nigeria today. The CEO and CFO, they were bedmates, they were roommates rather, in university, a top investment bank in Nigeria. They were, roommates in university. And the reason they could maintain, probably have some understanding around even the business they manage today is because they have probably developed some relationship. They have probably networked and seen each other's strengths and
Yeah.
weaknesses while they were playing together as roommates. So the network also is there. Other life skills like teamwork. You are working on your final year project with other students, despite the differences, you understand that there's a common goal, finishing this project. You get that's another life skill that one could, get from that. And another funny thing about I'm getting a degree is the fight for CGPA. I think that's like the best way to put it, where you are trying to have a very good CGPA from your year 1, year 2, year 3. It also can help people learn growth. You get maintaining yourself, consistency. You have to be consistent at a certain CGPA to graduate to the first class, to graduate to a 2-1, to graduate to a 2, even a 2-2. You must be consistent to a very, very good level. You get
Don't you,
so have different.
don't you think that is more like vanity metrics in social media? Like you post a picture, and there 1,000 people like it, and then you get 60 comments, kind of stuff. Because when you talk about CGPA and the way people struggle and fight it and all that, the first thing that came to my mind is the vanity metrics. Because
yeah. So I don't rate as much as we still have systems that rate your class of degree. I believe it is the who we become, while trying to achieve whatever CGPA we've achieved. I've seen third class students that did not tie the quality of who they are as a human being to the class of degree they came out with in school. And they excelled. Yes, you get. So it is what we choose to learn during that process, and not necessarily what we graduated with. I think that makes the difference and matters.
Exactly.
And I think that's it for me. Yes, and I think that's what matters to me. So it is for me. Getting a degree is not just about the bachelor's degree, the HND, the class of degree, or what have you. It is the life skills we develop, the way we communicate. You get how we learn communication, how we learn interacting with peers, how we learn interacting with lecturers, and many other things. Even to the most basic things like politics. You get student politics. Understanding organizational politics starts from student politics, where you're looking at the major stakeholders you have in your university. Who are the people that matter? How can you sell a value to those that can vote for you? You get. So I have been a bit involved with student politics when in uni. So you realize that there is also a selling, a marketing that comes with certain things that you learn while in university. You have your final year project defense where you have to appeal to a panel by presenting. Presentation skills, another thing. So I think these are just life skills that one can develop while obtaining that degree, and not necessarily focusing on just that degree that one is going to get out of it. So I think that's what makes a degree still much more relevant than just focusing on MOOCs. Again, people can come out of universities, take MOOCs, and diversify into other career areas. But we realize that the foundation that makes it possible for them to excel and be successful, even in other areas as they branch out of whatever they studied in school, is because of the skills they are developed while studying, to obtain the degree they finished with.
Now, Samuel, I must say this before we go on. I think you're in the wrong profession, to be quite honest. I think you should probably be in the marketing department of a private university and selling a university degree. So good at it because you are making a very, very strong case for university degrees. Like I said earlier on, I have been opportunity to get one. I wouldn't say more than that. I've been opportunity to get one. Now, probably that one is responsible for my level of experience, my level of interaction, the quality of interaction as well. Probably. But I've also met people who did not have the opportunity to go to a university. I'll use a plumber again. And it was probably because of this particular man, that I was using a plumber for reference. I met a plumber on a local flight. And we got talking. I didn't know it was a plumber, of course, because you don't see them carrying badges or you don't see them, using titles. I'm plumber Samuel or I'm plumber Habib, kind of thing. So,
yes.
Yeah, and we got talking. And he was telling me that he was a plumber. And I looked at him and I looked at the watch he was wearing. And I was like, that's a very expensive watch for a plumber to be wearing. You know what I mean? Now, he opened up and, we started having a very strong conversation. He'd been a plumber for 27 years. He owned a plumbing services company for 19 of that 27 years. He owned a plumbing materials company for 22 of those years. He sold the plumbing materials business for £5 million.
Wow.
So, like I said, his level of interaction was so different. He was able to interact on the level that was way beyond what somebody that had a university degree could have ordinarily. So I'm sure his accountant is probably a graduate. Maybe he has project managers who are graduates. So I'm just trying to say something around the issue of levels of interaction or experience of interaction when it comes to having a university degree. I think life in itself it's all about the quality of life that you live growing up, your background, that determines the quality of interaction that you have. There are tons and tons of people who you will see that will tell you that they have a university degree, and you have to take a second look at them when they talk.
I agree. I'm with you.
You know what I mean? So
yes, I'm with you.
I am not bashing university education, like I said earlier on. I'm just trying to say that we need to encourage more people to go into vocational education so that at least we'll be able to raise our productivity levels. Now, I will bash engineers. I have an engineer friend who's watching this show, and he knows I was going to bash him. Now, I'm not going to use Nigeria. I'm going to use Europe. The Romans built roads 300, 400 years ago, and those roads are still there all over Europe, especially Western Europe. That same Western Europe, you have people who are graduate engineers who have built roads, and those roads have potholes today. Really? Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? So when you look at it in real terms, university degrees are good for some certain things, but I think there should be a de-emphasization on university degree. We need to start looking a bit more in the direction of producing things. We can't export what we have. Our university degrees are not recognized abroad. So if your university degree is not recognized abroad, at least be able to make a product that is sellable abroad. People will buy your products if your products are good. But if you come to them with a university degree paper, I don't think it's going to work. Talent professionals should start looking at it and say, okay, how can we aid in this venture of increasing the productivity levels of Nigeria and Africa at large? You and your friends, I don't know what you're going to do about it, but you have to start looking at it, in my own opinion. What do you think?
I'm very much with you. I'm very much with you. And so I think we should now we should shift away from just degrees to employability itself. And employability speaks to, employability is specific to professions there. For example, an accountant, I would expect an accountant to understand, financial control or financial analysis, financial modeling, financial valuation, and many other things that you may have it there. And, the ability to communicate all of these things, these are the technical side of it. And then there's the non-technical side of it, which we call behavioral. So it is identifying the employability skills. I think that's what you need to focus on and not just leave it to, the degrees alone. Because we have vocational schools today that are producing engineers that, are thriving in manufacturing industries, that are overseeing plants. You get that an average graduate of mechanical engineering cannot oversee because they work with it hands-on. You get. So I think that's very important as well. We should understand how to identify the balance with regards to where can we find the kind of skills that are required to excel in this profession. Because employability skill is not just the skill, it's not just the knowledge, it's not just the attributes that makes a person employable. It also speaks to are they enough to make this person successful and add value? Because a person can be successful at what they are doing and not add value. Yeah. So that's just it for me. And as much as we also have these technical systems that develop, technical professionals, they should also be structured. We have this apprenticeship system in Nigeria that these people, mechanics, for example, go through. They work with maybe a senior mechanic for some years, and you realize that after some years, they are very, very good at operating different kind of cars. But you realize that the reason they cannot charge more than a business that is structured and is in that is well branded, that is well that have proper communication channels, is because something is lacking. The structure behind the business itself. That's why you have it. You go to a service station, maybe a Total service station, or some other structured Toyota service station, and they'll probably be charging you 25,000 naira to service your car.
Yes.
And you take the same car to a roadside mechanic that they would employ him at that same Toyota to deliver that same service that he delivered to you on the roadside, and he'll probably charge you some 10,000 naira lesser. There. It's because of the difference in the structure. So I believe it is now teaching technical professionals how to build structures around their business. Okay, I think that's how we can have a level playing ground for this set of people, because they are also missing out in a lot of opportunities because of that gap that exists between based on basic skills like communication, presenting their ideas, and structuring even how they work as much as possible. So I think this is these are like my own thoughts around it, helping technical professionals identify how to build structures around their businesses.
Okay, so do you think that with the level of services that are available, you cannot a symbiotic relationship cannot be struck for development, especially for those types of artisans? I'll give you an example. So growing up, my grandmother used to have a stall in Sabo Market in Lagos. There's a guy that used to come every Thursday with a small bag and a notebook. And then he writes something in the notebook, gives it to her. She just used the biro because my grandmother was not educated in the formal sense. So she just used the biro and just tick it. And then she dips her hand into her purse and then she brings out some money and she gives it to this guy. This guy is what they call an alajo, a collector. So he collects money for people and he helps them to manage the monies. So there was a small bank, a cooperative bank of Nigeria or something. He was one that used to go there to go and deposit the monies for them in those accounts for those cooperatives. Now, the mechanic that you spoke about now, for instance, he's going to charge you 15,000 naira to service your car, as opposed to the service station that's going to charge you 25,000. But there are young graduates out there who have a first degree in accounting, or somebody that went to a polytechnic that has an OND, who could provide a service of, I can help you structure your finances for a tiny fee. There are young insurance professionals who could walk up to those guys and say, look, you need to have insurance for you to be able to do some or work on some certain types of cards. These symbiotic relationships are not rocket science. They should be able to structure them. But this all goes back to talent professionals like yourselves, who should be able to see the gap in the market for managing those types of talents, bringing them together to try to form a colossus of the market. But we don't see it happening. And we've been asking questions. Why do people keep thinking that it has to do with government? It doesn't have to do with government. It has to do with the professionals who manage these types of people.
Okay, so I would want to put it from this angle, such that a good number of us as professionals really want to do, and in my personal efforts, I go out to speak or train, as I would say it, young professionals, even professionals like myself, and people that are even uneducated. I've been around technical professionals quite a number of times where you don't have to speak English. You are speaking their native language to communicate with them, so they can understand context. So these things exist. It's not that they don't exist, but it is the scalability of these things that is the challenge. So if I stay in Surulere, for example, or Shomolu, and I'm speaking to all the welders in Shomolu, all the welders in Surulere, you get, there's a high chance I'm doing it at personal cost. You get, and Then there's something we call adulthood. I'm also a human just like every other person, and I have
So,
personal responsibilities. So when it comes to sustainability and scalability of these kind of schemes that can help technical professionals benefit more from their work, you get, it could be challenging because there are not so many systems in place, to support the scalability or sustainability of this. I think that's like one of the major challenges, and that's where government also needs to come, to support. Where we have vocational centers where welders can come in, you throw these things open. Welders can come in every Thursday, twice every month. They train them on communication, they train them on financial management, they train them on different things. You get where you need insurance, just like something you mentioned. A mechanic, for example, if a
yeah,
mechanic fixes a car and it does not go well, and something goes bad, or something goes wrong, insurance can cover it rather than from the person to run into death, and they won't be able to repay, the owner of the car or
oh yeah,
something. So these are things they can learn, progressively. We can have things like the people that are in construction, that work on, high-rise buildings. They have insurance covering them to say if anything should happen to me, and it happens that I cannot work again. Insurance covers me for maybe 5 years, or provides for my family, such that even if I can't work, there's still something sustaining them. These are things they can learn, and there are these insurance packages out there that we
yeah,
know, but it's because they are not aware of these things. So I think government can create that platform. I think there are willing professionals that can educate people on these things. Organizations are even willing and open to support them because it's their business. It's a business model for them. But it will be more trusted. It will be more sustainable when government is enabling these kind of conversations as well. I think that's where government has to play a part to play, and also creating policies that are business friendly. I think that's one big challenge in this part of the world. Um, as a citizen, I pay tax and I see tariffs increasing. Fuel price increasing. Electricity tariff increasing, and I'm still paying tax. And I'm asking myself, is it really worth it to take out of this same money that government is squeezing out of me? You get to still go out there and try to do more. And inflation is there. The dollar is not. The dollar to naira rate is crazy right now. Cost of living is increasing there. So it is also, as even as individuals, trying to sustain yourself first before you're even going out there to try to So I think that's the gap that government can fill, creating that platform, that enabling environment for businesses to thrive, for professionals to thrive, and
yeah.
for yes, and a platform for people to come to learn, to scale their businesses as well. I think it goes beyond, because I've seen a lot of government initiatives where they are giving people money. I think it's not a function of a lack of funds. It is even how to even manage that fund, and that comes to how they manage the business itself. Platforms for people to learn
Yes.
business management. So I think that's where government comes in. Government has a very, very big part to play there. That's my thoughts.
Well, we've seen that there are what you call social enterprises. A few of them springing up across board in Nigeria. There's a particular lady who grabbed my interest a short while back. So she owns a radio station. Her radio station is purely educational. So she's using the radio to take education to children in disadvantaged areas. I'm not going to say she's earning a good living, but I know that she's probably earning a living because it's a social enterprise. A lot of social enterprises can be developed around such areas to enlighten people and help them develop. There are niche markets that are available. More or less what we have discussed now are 3 or 4 niche markets right there for those who can understand and who can identify it. Now,
Yes.
it goes back to the quality of the education. A lot of people
Yes.
do not even have the ability to listen. They have a discussion with you based on how they want to answer you, not based on what the content or the value of that conversation is. And they're always brandishing these university degrees. So it still goes back to what exactly is the quality of that education to make it relevant in today's world.
Well,
So I
for me,
think
I
it's
believe collaboration.
about it.
I didn't get okay. So I believe collaboration between higher institutions and the the business world is very, very important. The public and private sector is very, very important. And collaboration here speaks to what is the demand of each sector, public sector, private sector. What are the skills that we require from, the behavioral angle, from the technical angle. Each profession should have a contribution. If the HR department in the university, for example, if they are building a curriculum, they should be able to engage regulators, for example, in the HR space, the licensors in the HR space, to say what are professionals, learning in the workplace today to be able to practice HR. If it is mechanical engineers, they can engage construction companies, car manufacturing companies, for example, companies across different industries, that speaks to the nature of what they are doing or what they are learning in the university, to help them identify the gaps. So, for example, they could learn the theoretical part of it in their first year, in their second year, but when they get into the third year, for example, they start, getting real life exposure to the sector that they would be going into there. So I think that this is the kind of collaboration that is also very, very important, where we are not just building curriculum from what we think should be, but also working with major stakeholders in the market that we are producing these graduates for. I think that is the one thing that can really improve the relevance of degrees as we have it in Nigeria and across the world today.
That's fantastic. So, yes, we've had a brilliant time with Samuel Akinlotan tonight. Like I said, he was going to be schooling us on a couple of things that we didn't know. And I've told him that he's probably in the wrong profession. He should actually be the head of the marketing department for a private university somewhere in the world. Private universities are beginning to drown. Even some public universities, especially when it comes to the United Kingdom, they are beginning to drown as well, because people are beginning to look at it and they're beginning to ask, what is the relevance of a university degree? So somebody like Samuel, I think he should leave his talent management, go into marketing, and go and start selling those. Get people to stay on.
I'll give that a thought.
I get people to stay on getting degrees. Samuel, it's been fantastic having you.
I'll give that a thought.
We hope we're going to see you again.
Same here. Thank you very much for having me.
And you have a great night.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes.
So, very interesting. Like I said, Samuel, I think he needs to change his profession. He needs to just go and start working for a university and be helping them sell degrees, because he knows so much about it. He's passionate about talent management, so he knows the nitty-gritty. He understands what it is for you to have those degrees and how you can best use them. Now, on a personal note, I would like to say that I wish that I had learned technical skills much, much, much earlier in my life. Probably things would have been very, very, very different. At some point, I did have a technical related business, but it was from a managerial point of view. If you're out there watching this, listening, think about it, give it a thought, because at some point in your life, you just might realize that the university degree is brilliant. It's a good thing to have, but it is also very, very relevant for you to have a technical skill so that you can continuously be productive throughout your life. We would like to thank everybody that has been on the show tonight watching. As usual, we're going to give our usual social talk, trying to tell people what it is that we think, especially when it comes to the issue of rape. Our campaign is not over. It is still on. I know that our technical crew, they're telling us that, look, we are overrun our time, so we'll make it very, very short tonight. Say no to rape. Use the hashtags no excuse, no to rape. Say something about it to show that you support it, or you're supporting the campaign. You want this epidemic or this pandemic or this scourge to end. Without healthy women, we do not have healthy nations, we do not have healthy families, we don't have healthy societies. We'll see you again on Thursday. We hope we're going to have another great show. We hope you'll be there as well. You stay blessed. Regards to everybody. Have a great night. Good night.